Hey, what's going on, guys? It's FPL Yusuf and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be going over my updated draft in Fantasy Premier League. I'm going to show you guys my new team. It's a lot different from the last one I had. It's got Haaland in there, it's got Salah, and it's got a few more players that I'm going to talk about. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, welcome back, guys. Thank you so much for joining me for another video today. Before we get into this one, if you wouldn't mind just dropping a thumbs up down below and subscribing as well, it would really help me out and I'd be very, very grateful for it. So this is my updated draft. Now, it has changed a lot since my last one. There's been a few big changes in this. This is still not perfect. Just before I get into this, there's still a few players that I'm missing that I do want to have in there. But as things stand right now, this is my current draft that I've got going on. So let's start off with the goalkeepers. Now, I have actually gone for a premium goalkeeper. Most seasons I would advise against that, and I would say, do you know what, £4.5 million keeper. Usually there's also a £4 million that sort of presents themselves as a starting option. But this year I haven't. I've gone for David Raya in goal for two reasons. Number one, he is the cheapest way into the Arsenal backline. At the time of recording, Calafiori has just been announced as his price has been dropped on FPL, and he's coming in at 6 million. Now, I thought that would be my route into the Arsenal defence. I thought he might be sort of around the 5.5 million. But no, he's actually coming at 6 million as well. So as things stands, David Raya is the most guaranteed, cheapest way into the Arsenal defence. And, you know, I've touched on it before, but the bonus points surrounding teams and goals conceded, I think for me, it makes sense. You know, Arsenal kept, I think it was 18 clean sheets last season, which, you know, it's always one every 2 games. And they were probably a bit unlucky in a few of them not to hit into the 20s. So yeah, for me, David Raya, cheapest way into the Arsenal defence, best defence in the league. I'm going to pay the premium this time for him. Now, onto the substitute goalkeeper. Before I get onto this, if you guys have got Matt Turner from Nottingham Forest, please get rid of him. He's almost nearly 25% owned and is currently third choice out of Nottingham Forest's goalkeepers. He's not going to play, and I think what we're going to find is within the first few weeks when people start wildcarding because, you know, there's players that they haven't got, players that they don't like in the team, he's going to be someone that gets transferred out and he's going to drop in value. So please, if you've got Matt Turner, go for literally any other £4 million goalkeeper. Fabianski his price is starting to rise as well, so just bear that in mind. But please, if you have Matt Turner in goal, just get rid of him. Get someone else. I've gone for Danny Ward. You know, I'm not sure if he's guaranteed to start for Leicester, but you know, he did play a lot of games for them last season. So for me, he's there. Like I said, for the goalkeepers, mostly, if you're going to go for a sort of 5.5 million, that's probably going to be your starting goalkeeper anyway, the same way it is for me. You know, I'm not going to rotate David Raya regardless of what the fixture is. So he'll be my set and forget. But yeah, like I said, if you just on the substitute goalkeeper, if you have got Matt Turner in at 4 million, please just get rid of him before you lose value in him. Okay, so onto defence now. I'm going to start with the back three that I've got on screen. Gavardiol is the most expensive, coming in at 6 million. You'll notice that there's no Trent in this team, which I'm going to touch on in a little while. But yeah, Gavardiol for me, he probably is the most nailed City defender that they have. You know, he can play on the left, he can play in the centre. He just, for me, he offers the most going forward for them as well. Now, City have obviously notoriously been frustrating over the last few years where they win games sort of by 3-4 goals, but they always concede one. And that, for a lot of us, has been really frustrating, which is why I refuse to ever own Edison again, because it just did it too many times. Gavardiol offers a lot more attacking threat, which, you know, in the grand scheme of things, isn't going to return you every game, but obviously having that threat there does make up for the fact that if they lose a clean sheet, there's also a chance that he's going to get a goal or an assist. So yeah, for me, it's the most expensive defender that I have on this team, and it's going to be in there. The second most expensive defender on this team is Daniel Munoz from Crystal Palace. Now, I really like him. You know, I touched on him in my defenders video. You know, at the mid-range price points, I think 5 million is just about enough that I could say, you know what, it's justifiable. Crystal Palace have been a lot better defensively since they've had their new manager, you know, take over sort of halfway through last season. But also going forward, especially if you've watched his games for Colombia, you know, he scored sort of 3 or 4 goals in the last few months. You know, Palace, he was really getting forward. You know, at least he's left now, so I think that's going to just give him more scope to bomb down that right-hand side. So for me, I think he's a worthwhile investment. You know, Palace offer you a decent return on clean sheets, but also he offers you a decent return offensively as well. So I think, you know, there could be some big hauls from him over the course of this season. On to two of the 4.5 million defenders who I'm going to be rotating with each other. Dan Burn is starting for me. Obviously, you know, Southampton at home, great fixture on paper, you know, newly promoted side. I've seen a few people talking about, is Dan Burn nailed? Is he going to start? For me personally, whether he starts on the left or starts at centre back, I think he will start. You know, first off, he's 6'7", so he offers threats both going forward, attacking corners, but also defending corners. He's a big part of how Newcastle do it. Now, Botman is ruled out, I think, until the new year, so they're going to be without a centre back. Now, Dan Burn obviously is naturally a centre back. was put in at left back for times at last season, but can play both. I do think he'll start. Me personally, I don't have any concerns around that. The other £4.5 million defender that I will be rotating with him, or maybe even with Munoz as well a little bit, is Konsa. Again, another player who I think a lot of the community are going to probably jump on because 4.5 million. Aston Villa have got a good start to the season with fixtures. And it's probably pretty much nailed. He can play right back, right centre back, centre back. He's got multiple positions across the back line, which makes him versatile. But obviously at 4.5 million as well is a nice player that you can sort of chop and change depending on what the fixture is. And Barco is our last defender, coming in at 4 million. Now, there is talks that Stupinian is actually going to be ruled out until maybe the end of September, start of October, which for a £4 million defender who's been taking set pieces, which is obviously the key thing here in pre-season for Brighton, I think that for me is enough to say, even if you don't hold him for all the season, because obviously when Stupinian comes back, he's going to go straight back into the team. But if it's for the whole of August, the whole of September, maybe the start of October, it's good enough for me to say, you know what, at 4 million, I think it's a great budget enabler, but it's a defender who takes set pieces for a Brighton side who I'm expecting a few more clean sheets this season from them. And like I said, if we can get the first sort of 2-3 games out of the way for Brighton, I think they have Ipswich and I think it's either Leicester or Southampton back to back. So you'd imagine they'd get sort of at least one clean sheet there. So yeah, for me, he's a budget enabler first and foremost, but it's someone who is actually on set pieces and is probably going to start for the first couple of weeks of the season. Right, so on to midfielders now. I'm going to start off with the two Liverpool boys in here. So Mo Salah, for me, probably the best captaincy for game week 1, as I'm sure a lot of people are agreeing on that. So for me, he has to have a place in this team. Dominic Szoboszlai is someone that I talked about in my midfielder video, and I think he's someone that's gone really under the radar. At the time of me recording this, he's only owned by 2% of the game. Now, I've been looking at how Arne Slot set up for final last season, and kind of almost maybe trying to guess how he's going to set up for Liverpool this season. To be honest with you, I think it's going to be a 4-2-3-1. I don't think Szoboszlai will be one of the holding midfielders. So it's probably going to be in the number 10 role. Now, if he is somebody who's going to guarantee himself a start at that number 10 role, at £6.5 million, somebody who's going to be on set pieces, can take direct free kicks, can take crossing free kicks, corners, obviously he'd be coupled up with Trent, and that's someone who I don't have in this draft, which I'm working desperately hard to try and make possible. But Szoboszlai at £6.5 million in a Liverpool side that have got a very good start to the season, if he does get that number 10 role, I think for me, you have to have him in there. I think, like I said, he's currently only owned by 2%, which is crazy to me. I think a lot of people have been looking at like Morgan Gibbs-White, Johnson from Tottenham. There's a whole other host of midfielders around that 6.5 million. I think maybe Szoboszlai has been overlooked just ever so slightly. So for me, he's going to be in there doubling up with Mo Salah. Anthony Gordon, 7.5 million. I think, again, it's going to be the same as like an Isak or a Dan Burn. It's going to be someone who a lot of people are going to own. He is one of the few midfielders at that price point that you can say, you know what, it's guaranteed to start. He'll be out on that left-hand side. He's got a goal threat. He's got an assist threat. And he was just one of Newcastle's better players last year. And I don't expect anything to be different this year for him. So yeah, for me, Anthony Gordon, again, probably, as I've said about a few players so far, one of the first names on the team sheet. Now we get onto the cheaper side of the midfield. Morgan Rogers, I think a lot has been made of him during pre-season. 2 goals in the opening 2 games for him. Was injured last season, but obviously with the departure of Moussa Diaby from Aston Villa, I think does free up a slot for him. My only worry around him is his minutes. And I don't know whether he's going to be a 90-minute man. Obviously Aston Villa do have a lot of players, competing for that wide spot. John Duran can play there. Leon Bailey's another one. So I would just be hesitant about him. You've got to remember and sort of dampen expectations a little bit that he's 5 million for a reason. Maybe that's because he's not going to play every single minute of every game. However, if he is starting most of the games, I think he's a viable option and someone that you can sort of bring in and out depending on what fixtures Aston Villa have. Now, there is an unknown name in this midfield, which I don't know if a lot of people will actually know about. So at the time of recording, he's currently only 0.7% owned, and that is Minte from Brighton. Now, he's had a very good start to the pre-season. 2 goals in 2 games. He left Newcastle in the summer. I don't think Newcastle wanted to sell him, but due to FFP reasons, I think they had to just try and clear some money on their books. He is someone that I'm expecting Brighton to start because Pascal Gross has now left. He's got joined Borussia Dortmund, which means that's going to free up a slot in the midfield. But he's someone that started pre-season very lively. As I said, 2 goals in 2 games at 5.5 million. I don't think, to be honest, I haven't seen anyone talk about him. So for me personally, at this stage, he's definitely a differential and somebody who I think I'm probably going to want to have in my team. If I sort of shuffle things around, it will be between him and Rodgers. But to be honest with you, I think I'd rather take the punt on him because, like I said, he's going to be someone that is not going to play every game. As you can see on screen, I've got 3 good strikers. So it's a possibility that I could play a 4-3-3, a 3-5-2. It depends, but there is opportunities for him to come in, but there's also opportunities that you can rotate him as well at that price point. So yeah, for me, a little bit of one who's under the radar, but somebody who I think could be potentially very exciting this season. Now, onto the forwards. 2 out of the 3, maybe even arguably all 3 of them are kind of no-brainers on this one. You know, Haaland, Isak, for me, you've got the most expensive player in FPL and maybe the most underpriced player this season in FPL. You know, Isak, with the fixtures that Newcastle have got starting off the season, I just think he has to be in your team. He's somebody who I expect to start playing 90 minutes. You know, there was a lot of rotation with him and Wilson over maybe the last few seasons, but I think with the way he played last season, you know, getting 20 plus goals for the first time in the Premier League for him, I think that's a big stepping stone. And, you know, see, there's been a lot of talk about linking him a move away. So I think Newcastle probably want to give him that platform to say, you know what, you are our main man and you are going to be the main source of goals for us this season. So yeah, for me, Isak will obviously be on penalties as well, which is another great route to the point. Erling Haaland, there's been a lot made about, do you go with Haaland, do you not? The overall team, of course, will be better if you don't go without him. However, as I touched on in my forwards video, Chelsea, A, for the opening game, just don't look great defensively. But B, it's that game against Ipswich at home. He's just going to be the captaincy choice. And like I said before, you can't win FPL in game week 2, but you most certainly can lose it. And if Haaland decides to turn up and bag a hat-trick, 4 goals, and you don't own him for that game, everyone who does own him will have him captain. So you're going to just end up falling so far behind. And I just don't think in game week 2, it's a risk worth taking. So for me, Haaland has made the squad, and I can say will definitely be there game week 1. The final forward in this team is going to be Rodrigo Muniz. There's a lot of debate about whether you go for him, Chris Wood. You know, you could save yourself 0.5 million by dropping down to João Pedro. But for me, I think overall, everything he offers at that price, consistency. You know, he's playing in a very good team now, and they've obviously just signed Smith Rowe, who's going to, you know, that's even better for him playing up front. It's going to be more creativity for him. I just think at 6 million, I think we're looking at a little bit of a steal here. You know, Fulham have got a decent opening run of fixtures to start the season. He's someone you can sort of rotate out if you want to play 4 at the back. You know, with Konsa starting, you can do if you want to get, you know, Rodgers in there with Minter as a 5 midfield. You can do so. So I think this team does give you a lot of flexibility in terms of rotation for formations and, you know, bringing different players in depending on what fixture they've got. But yeah, for me, this is my currently updated draft. I think, to be honest with you, looking at it, I think more often than not, most of these players will be in my starting team game week 1. Like I said, there are a few that aren't in there right now. You know, Trent, Saliba. Obviously, I've got David Raya covering the Arsenal defence, but I did want maybe an Arsenal centre back. You know, I was also thinking about Ben White. Obviously, I haven't got any Liverpool defensive cover in there right now, so there's a few things that I think could be tweaked. But again, it comes down to if you own Haaland, you own Salah. I don't know if you can make it all possible, but we're going to try. We're going to keep going. This is my current draft anyway, going into the start of August. You know, we've got, I think, about 2 weeks left before the start of the season. So yeah, I'm sure it will change before then. But as of right now, this is what my current team looks like. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed it, don't forget to drop a thumbs up and subscribe down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you guys next time.